What's up, Taiwan? I'm Reece Ayers with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan is looking at buying billions of dollars worth of arms from the US, a massive package that is reportedly designed to show the Trump administration that Taiwan is committed to its defense. Rick Glauert has been looking into the details of this and joins us from our Taipei newsroom. Rick, what do we know about this potential deal?
Well, details are emerging of this massive weapons purchase. Reuters reporting that it's worth between 7 and 10 billion US dollars, and that it will include coastal defense cruise missiles and rocket launchers called HIMARS. Now, we have been expecting a big weapons deal between Taiwan and the new Trump administration, as Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te looks to assure the new administration that he is taking Taiwan's defense seriously. Taiwan relies on its friendship with the United States and weapons sales like this to counter the threat from China, which of course claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory. But there have been some question marks over that all-important Taiwan-US relationship. Trump previously accused Taiwan of taking the security guarantees that it offers for granted and saying that Taiwan should be spending more on defense, as much as 10% of its GDP. Trump has also been threatening tariffs on Taiwan's chips. That's a really important industry here. Just last week, President Lai Ching-te said that he was committed to spending 3% of the country's GDP on defense spending, largely seen as a big demonstration that Taiwan was committed to protecting itself. Here's what his Ministry of National Defense had to say on Tuesday.
关于路透社引述匿名人士的说明，本部这边不予评论。但是国防部每年均依据敌情的威胁来滚动式修调我们的武力兵力整建的计划，并且针对兵力整建的项目，我们会将军购、商售跟自制3个方式来筹获并审慎的评估。所以军购并不是唯一的管道。
Well, Lai will not be expecting to get his hands on any shiny new weaponry anytime soon. There's a massive backlog in deliveries of US weapons to Taiwan, and any new purchases by Lai will have to go through Taiwan's legislature. That's currently in the hands of 2 opposition parties that have been slashing and freezing Lai's spending plans.
Thank you, Rick. That was reporter Rick Glauert on reports of big weapons purchases by Taiwan. Taiwan's lawmakers are discussing that critical budget right now. Tiffany Wong is live for us from the legislature here in Taipei. Tiffany, what are they discussing?
Lawmakers are back in talks about the country's controversial central budget, which was just passed weeks ago. And now today, lawmakers are holding so-called follow-up discussions. These involve lawmakers from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, the main opposition Kuomintang, and the smaller opposition Taiwan People's Party. But it's unclear if the discussions today can actually result in any changes to the numbers in that budget. That's because the cabinet has not officially asked the legislature for a revote. The $89 billion US budget saw a 6% slash to the cabinet's proposal, and it was pushed through with the support of those two opposition parties. This triggered a lot of outrage within the DPP, with the premier, the leader of the cabinet himself, saying that these cuts are suicidal, and saying that it's possible that the government may not be able to implement some policies or even conduct normal operations because of the budget cuts. They also include some freezes to major programs, including the Defense Ministry's Submarine Development Program, as well as funding for the Foreign Ministry. Now, the DPP said that they would still try to push through and get some changes to the budget, but it's still unclear how exactly. And now the budget discussions that are happening today come after President Lai Ching-te called together the heads of the 5 branches of government in an unprecedented meeting on February 10th. At that meeting, the only opposition member present was the head of the legislature, Han Kuo-yu. He said at that meeting that he asked the cabinet to not call for a revote on the budget, budget, but proposed instead that the legislature would conduct their own discussions to come up with solutions to advise the cabinet on how to work within the confines of this budget. And that seems to be what they are discussing today. And it should be noted that the budget does reflect a 3% increase from 2024's budget. Now, at that meeting, the President Taichung also urged the branches of government as well as lawmakers from all parties to come together on the issue of national security and diplomacy, saying that, and now that we're seeing these potential major boosts to defense spending, this could mark a turning point for what's been a very rough road for the divided legislature.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was Tiffany Wong live outside of the legislature. A deadly explosion at a Taichung department store last week may be linked to illegal renovations that were going on at the time. The owners of the building say there was no permit to carry out the work because of a, quote, oversight. John Van Trieste has the latest.
Firefighters make a heat map of the partly ruined Xinhuang Mitsukoshi department store in Taichung. It's part of a probe into how an explosion ripped through the building's upper floors last week, killing 4 people and injuring dozens. Despite a lack of scorch marks or other signs of fire, investigators say they haven't changed their theory that gas was involved.
爆炸的时候，在一瞬间它就已经完全燃烧了，所以才会让大家看到爆开的时候是没有火光的。不过事实上，因为有民众有被灼伤的一个情形。 所以我们还是断定它是还是有燃烧的一个过程。
Though the shock has yet to subside in central Taiwan's biggest city, and the search for evidence is far from over, it's now time for recovery. Though the building's structure was judged safe for now, the city government wants guarantees it will stay sound, especially when work to clear out merchandise and other items starts.
要赶快提出相关的安全认定跟鉴定，那这个部分才可以确保我后续的人进去 抢救相关它的物品的时候，不会受到里面的倾倒物或是结构安全的危险的影响。
The department store's owner said it had planned to hand over such an assessment and plan on Monday. But that doesn't settle the problems the owners could face, especially as inspectors dig into illegal renovations that were going on at the time of the blast, and whether there's a link between this work and the explosion. The owners say their failure to get a permit was an oversight, but there could still be legal consequences as the investigation into what happened finds answers. Scott Huang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A Chiayi County gas pipeline fire that reached several stories in height has been extinguished. County officials say a work crew laying a water pipeline accidentally triggered the fire as their work disrupted nearby stones, puncturing the gas line. No one was injured. The gas company has shut off the pipeline and found no more leaks. An investigation is expected into how the accident happened. At least 18 people are injured after a jet flipped upside down while landing in Canada. The Delta Airlines flight was carrying 80 people from Minneapolis-St. Paul to Toronto. 3 people are being treated for critical injuries, including a child. Toronto's Pearson Airport was shut down for several hours as authorities investigate the cause of the crash. European leaders have met in Paris amid fears US President Donald Trump may exclude Europe and sideline Kyiv from talks to end Russia's war on Ukraine. It comes as Russian officials arrive in Saudi Arabia for the first meeting with US representatives in the almost 3 years of war. Rosie Greninger reports.
A show of unity among Europe's military powers, gathering at the Elysee Palace in Paris for an emergency summit on the war in Ukraine. The last-minute meeting was called by French President Emmanuel Macron, as Europe attempts to secure a spot at the negotiation table after the US moved to begin peace talks with Russia, sidelining the continent and excluding Ukraine.
Para que sea una paz justa y duradera, tiene que contar con la implicación activa de Ucrania, que es el país agredido, y también del proyecto político que se siente amenazado, que es la Unión Europea.
EU leaders are concerned that US President Donald Trump is giving too many concessions to his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, early in the negotiation process. Maintaining their resolve, the European leaders are reinforcing their continued support for Ukraine, expressing a willingness to help boost the country's defences.
I think the most important thing about this meeting tonight is the need for all of us to step up when it comes to our spendings on defense. Russia is not only a threat against Ukraine, but all of us.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer reinforced that, recognising it's a new era under Trump and Europe needs to take responsibility for its own security. Set to travel to Washington next week to meet with the US leader, Starmer said the regional bloc is considering providing Ukraine with military backup.
Europe must play its role, and I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground alongside others if there is a lasting peace agreement.
But to achieve that, Starmer, among many others, warned there must be a meaningful US security guarantee put in place to ensure Russia won't reignite the conflict. Meanwhile, Russian officials have arrived in Saudi Arabia for a meeting with a US delegation, the country's first gathering in the nearly 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are expected to discuss avenues to end the conflict. But when asked about their ideal result from the talks, Russia seemed focused on stabilizing its relationship with the US.
Юрий Викторович, как настроение перед переговорами? Какой был бы идеальный результат?
Посмотрим. Главное, начать реальную нормализацию отношений между нами и Вашингтоном.
Those talks could lay the groundwork for a meeting between Trump and Putin in as soon as the coming days. And as those negotiations get underway, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reiterated he will reject any outcome of discussions that don't involve Kyiv. He is now in Turkey and will visit Saudi Arabia in the coming days for separate meetings, rallying support for Kyiv in the face of potentially diminished US backing. John Su and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has held a rare meeting with the heads of his country's leading tech companies. Among those present, Huawei's founder Ren Zhengfei, Alibaba founder Jack Ma, and Tencent CEO Pony Ma. Liang Wenfeng, the founder of artificial intelligence company DeepSeek, was also present. At the meeting, Xi said that technology companies should serve the goal of China's overall economic development. It's the most forceful sign China could shift its approach to the tech industry after a sweeping regulatory crackdown that began in 2022. 38 countries, including the United States and China, are taking part in naval exercises with Indonesia. Officials say the drills, called Komodo 2025, are aimed at strengthening multilateral cooperation among all participating countries to respond to natural disasters. They stress that the drills are non-combative and serve to boost humanitarian response cooperation. This is one of the only exercises that sees US and Chinese forces in the same drill. Komodo 25 runs until Sunday. A submarine cable connecting Taiwan and the outlying islands of Matsu has been completely disconnected. The Zhonghua Telecom Company, which operates the cable, says that the disruption to the Taiwan-Matsu No. 2 cable started on Sunday and is working with the Coast Guard to investigate the cause. Emergency systems have been activated to keep Matsu online. This is the third disruption to undersea cables connecting the outlying islands this year. Repairs to 2 of the damaged cables are expected to be finished by late March. Conservationists are celebrating a record number of green sea turtle nests on an island in the South China Sea controlled by Taiwan. In just 4 months, more than 140 of the endangered turtles were observed coming ashore on Taiping Island to lay an estimated 15,000 eggs. Among them was the smallest ever egg-laying specimen recorded in Taiwan, indicating many young turtles may be laying eggs and that conservation efforts are paying off. Researchers also observed mating behavior indicating Taiping's importance to the life cycle of the species. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take you to Italy for the Venice Carnival, where wooden boats float down the Grand Canal, including one of a giant rat, the symbol of the parade. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.